have Iris Gilboa, a senior technical program manager from BigID, and we have Ori Keren, CEO and co-founder of LinearB. And this presentation is about the journey of BigID. So hi, Iris. Hi, Ori. Welcome.
Hi.
It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Could you tell a little bit more about this talk? What does it mean that there's a journey of BigID?
Yeah, the main topic of this talk is we're going to talk about how predictability and planning accuracy when you're running an engineering organization is a key thing. And we're going to give examples of how BigID were successful with that with the help of LinearB, with the help of our tool, and some of the challenges that they faced along the way.
All right, this is a topic that is really close to my heart. I've been struggling with the same issues in the past, as I'm sure many people in the audience have as well. So please, Iris and Ori, take it away.
Thank you very much. So hi everyone. Thanks for joining this session. Like we said, it's going to be about how BigID were able to improve on key topics like predictability and planning accuracy. Just quickly to introduce myself, my name is Ori Keren. I'm the co-founder and CEO of LinearB. Before I started LinearB, I was twice VP of engineering, both me and my co-founder in LinearB, Dan. And if we're like totally honest and totally open, this was an area that we were always having trouble with. How do we stay predictable? You know, the business was always asking, okay, what can we deliver? And we were always trying to say, here are the things that we can deliver. And again, at that time, this was 2015, or that was we weren't doing a good enough job if we're open. It was really a challenge for us. This is why I feel super privileged and honored to have Iris Gilboa from BigID joining us today. And I want Iris to kind of share her experience and how BigID improved over the year with some help from LinearB, but mainly because of the great job that they did. So first of all, Iris, thank you very much for joining me in this session.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before we start, can you give a little bit of context? Maybe let's start with first of all, what is BigID? What are you guys doing? And then maybe about your role in the organization.
Sure. So BigID is a data intelligence platform that enables organizations to know their data and take action for privacy, security, and governance. Customers deploy BigID to proactively discover, manage, protect, and get more value from the data, regulated data, sensitive and personal data across their organization. So this in very high level what we do. We are almost 150 developers in the R&D organization in BigID. When I started 4 years ago, I was number 15 and the first female engineer in R&D. We're a lot more now. We have 13 teams working across the world, not only in Israel. We're using Scrum and Kanban, mostly Scrum. And yeah, so I've been with BigID for 4 years, started as the QA manager, started with all the processes and best practices to have. 3 years ago, I switched to become a technical program manager. And then 2 years ago, we started using LinearB, and we have a lot of progress from that time because we have much visibility about everything, as we'll explain later.
Perfect. So you said like you started as in some role in QA and then became like a program manager. So this is a cool, like sort of like a transformation story. And I can imagine, so a new role, you get into this role, probably nothing is like said, okay, hey, here's what a program manager should do. You're new to this role. Can you share a little bit of like, and we didn't start to working together at that time. So can you share a little bit of like the early days and what kind of challenges you were facing, before you kind of like learn what's like the practices and how to use tools for that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I took over was helping all the Scrum teams work better with the process. So that was one of the roles that I took over. One of the things that I needed to do in order to help the teams is to collect KPIs. And we're using Jira. So I started looking at Jira and to see how I can collect these KPIs in the easiest way possible. I need those KPIs. We, as in management, we need those KPIs not to monitor individual work, but see how the team is working, to see if we have some bottlenecks. What can we do as a company to help the teams to progress better and faster, and to identify everything.
Yeah. So, and when you say, hey, we need this data, what did you have in mind back in these days? Like, what type of data you said it's important to pull to understand if you're like hitting the goals that you defined?
Okay. So first of all, as I said, most of the teams work in Scrum, so we were working in 2 weeks sprints. So we wanted to see how much work was done in each sprint for each of the teams, and to see how much they invested in each type of issue type, like how much time they invested in bugs, how much in stories, how much in tasks, and how much in interruptions during the sprints. And to take this information out from Jira, it's possible, but it's not out of the box.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you are working with Jira. We know like there's a bunch of like solutions out there. And maybe not everybody, has like now 3 experience as a program manager. So can you share like what are the steps, like the manual steps you need to go through to pull this information from Jira, and what kind of process you have to, like an ETL process that you had to run in order to get the data that you want?
So first of all, when a team starts a sprint, we need to see how many points and how many stories or issues they were committed to do in that sprint. Then when the sprint ends, I can go in Jira to the sprint report and see exactly how many points were done in that sprint. I need to check manually. You can export it to an Excel, but still you need to count manually or through the Excel how many issues were done, the division between bugs, stories, and tasks, see how many issues were taken out from the sprint during the sprint, how many stories were added to the sprint during the sprint, and how many were carried over, not completed during the sprint, and carry over to the next sprint. It is doable. It takes time. You can also do it in a script, but still, you still need to see if everything in that script works properly. But it's not something that you can just press on a page and see all the information. You need to work for that information.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I don't remember like when we started, was that like one of the goals or something like we learned like along the way that is like a pain point. But this is really cool. Do you remember what was like the So you said you wanted to know, okay, how much story points or what was the size of the commitment and what was added, I guess, to prevent like interruptions or to minimize the interruptions that the team needs to
Yes.
get like inside a...
The added stories mainly to see what they are and to identify what can we do better to not have them.
Yeah, to reduce them.
Because interruptions were all and always will be.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And do you remember where were you like, when we talk about predictability, and maybe for the audience and the people that don't know exactly what we're talking about, when we're saying planning accuracy, we're saying, here's what I committed to, whether I'm counting issue count, or it's story points or whatever, and it's more suitable for Scrum, I agree. And here's what I executed out of what we committed. So if something is added in the middle, and let's say like I don't know, I committed to 80 story points, right? And I did 70, but I did extra 10 that were added in the middle. Like, planning accuracy, would it be 100 or would it be like 7, like only on the original content that you plan?
It won't be 100 because I didn't finish everything that I committed to, and I had something added in the middle. So even if it sums up to be the same content, it's not, I didn't plan for it at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I cannot get to 100%.
This is awesome. Okay, I'm hearing, by the way, we're talking to a lot of course, like prospect customers. I'm hearing like two schools of thought. Most of the people are like saying exactly like you, because again, we started this discussion and said predictability is like the most important thing. Like, you want to commit to things and do them. It could be the right choice, like to do the extra stories, but still you want to improve on your planning. You remember what was the typical like planning accuracy at that point for your teams, like more or less?
Less than 50 to most of them.
Less than 50%.
Yes.
But
the thing is that I couldn't show it to them in Jira. I had my own KPIs to show it, but again, there are always questions. How did you do that? How did you calculate that? So having it in a different product that calculates everything was amazing. Yeah,
and this is where I think, got into the picture.
Yeah.
Maybe one last question before we look into the the solution. You can walk us through what do you do with the LinearB's project delivery tracker. It might sound obvious, but I heard something like some of our prospects saying, "Hey, like planning accuracy and predictability is just like it's a manager thing." But we know there's like all kinds of bad things are happening when we're saying, hey, we're going to do X and we only executed on 20 or 30% of that. Can you walk me through like, okay, what was the morale like with the developers, the team, and the leadership, right? Business need to align with the engineering and
Sure.
What kind of like things you saw there?
So in Agile, in Scrum, the team owns the process. So if I commit to 100 story points and do only 50, it demotivates the team, because I said I will do 100. I managed to do 50. There's probably something wrong with me, with the team. Maybe I don't have enough knowledge. Maybe I don't have the right tools to succeed. So this is one aspect of the planning accuracy, of having to commit to too much stories in a sprint. Also, if I over plan, I will never be able to meet customer commitments, business commitments outside, because I will never know if something will be in that sprint or 50% that it will be carry over to the next one. Yeah. And then again, maybe to even the next one. So that impacts business as well. In BigID, we have an engineering escalations team that are It's an additional layer between engineering and support. And also, the feedback that I get from them on the planning accuracy is exactly that. Because they're seeing that something is committed to, let's say, sprint 144, and then it is released and it's not in. So they come and ask me, but you committed to that release. What happened? And then I need to explain to them, again and again, why wasn't it done? So, yeah.
And do you think, so you're saying like there was frustration from developers, like, hey, we didn't hit what we committed, but also, what was the leadership reaction to that? Like, leadership was also...
Yes, because if a customer is waiting for something and they don't get it, so the VP R&D hears about it, and then he comes and asks, what happened?
Yeah.
And it's also an interruption to the sprint because you need to stop and see what happened and explain.
Hi, we are Eficode and we organize the DEVOPS Conference. What developers really want is to see their software live. CI/CD minimizes the time from idea to software delivery. We would love to speak with you to learn how we could help you to remove the pain and uncertainty from your software development lifecycle. You can find us at eficode.com. The links are in the description. And have a great time with the DEVOPS Conference talks.
Obviously, we're talking here because things got a lot better, right, from where you were at the beginning with, you said like under 50% of like planning accuracy. So I think we have here some like segments from the project delivery tracker that we have in LinearB. We don't have to, to go through everything, but can you walk us through like, what do you do with the tool? What are your practices and what do you get from it?
Okay, so I have bi-weekly sessions with all of the Scrums to review their KPIs. I know they need to do it by themselves, but I'm in BigID to help the teams. So instead of them finding the 15 minutes every sprint to look at the KPIs, we have a specific time for each of the teams that we go over it together. The team, the Scrum Master, of course, and the project owner, product manager, depends on the organization. And we go over the work breakdown of the team, see how much new work they did in the sprint, how much refactor or
this is here, right? These are like the
yes, this
operational
one.
metrics. Yeah.
Yes, how much refactor or rework the team did. Rework, for some of you that maybe don't know the terminology, is refactor on code newer than 21 days. Why is it important? Because if I entered some code into the system and I already need to refactor it the next sprint, maybe I need to look at something to see what didn't go as expected in the previous sprint. So this is one of the things that we look at. The second thing is the cycle time. So cycle time, as I said, we have sprints of 2 weeks. We aim to have stories of max of 8 points, but again, a story of 8 points may be a bit bigger for a sprint of 2 weeks. Because if something blocks the engineering or the testing or even the deployment, then it will be carried over to the next sprint. It is too big to calculate everything that can go wrong. during those 2 sprints. And also, 8 points can be seen in a cycle time of, like, let's say 11 days. So I can look at the cycle time of 11 days and say, okay, let's go to the planning, see how many big stories we had, and maybe we need to think about dividing them into smaller stories next time.
Yeah, I love this, because you're saying, hey, we found a correlation or a connection between all, like, well, I call it sometimes like the old world of like story points and planning to the DORA metrics, the operational metrics, and you kind of like learn how to develop intuition. Hey, if I'm saying like long cycle times, I already know, like, we broke it into like big pieces. It's going to be hard, like, to move them through the development pipeline. I'm curious, like, did you know, like, how much time it took you, like, to develop that intuition? Like, okay, go back, like, to the retrospective, or even or like you have a meeting every 2 weeks and kind of identify those type of things.
Well, I can say it's been a few years. I've been in Informatica before BigID for almost 12 years, and there we had a transition to agile. So I don't even remember when was it, if it was 10 years ago or even more than 10 years ago, but yeah, it's something that just, for me, it stands out. Yeah, and this is exactly what I try to explain the teams, to point it to them, so it will become natural to them to spot it also.
Yeah, perfect. Another thing that really caught my eye here, like when we started looking, so first of all, there's like sometimes this is a screenshot from your data, right, from your project delivery tracker. Sometimes I see stuff that is like based on issue count, and sometimes on story points. You kind of like toggle between those, or you more like a story point, like kind of like a organization?
I look mostly at story points, but I can tell you that the product and the team lead wants to look also on the issue count. It can be different because, of course, the points is more accurate, but yeah, it's nice to have both of them to look at.
Super cool. And maybe one last thing that, again, really, when we prepped, you had this slide that really like got me thinking. I found so many insights here, but maybe you can walk us through. Well, of course, we see like the improvement here, but walk us through this team and what specifically helped this team improve and jump from 25 in the area of 25% predictability to the area of close to 70.
Okay, so first of all, in the bi-weekly sessions that I have with all the teams, I insist that the whole Scrum team will be present. So it won't be only on the team lead or the product manager. And I also, from my experience, the team has power. So if the team isn't okay with how the planning goes and how the KPIs look, so they have the power to change it. And this is one of the examples. Also, the team lead. I can say that in all our scrums, the team leads saw the data and they said, okay, we need to be more active in the planning, in the signing off of the sprint content, and not just give the product owner the last say about it. And you can see it. First of all, they commit. It's not perfect yet, but you can see that from 68 carryovers, they're down to 22 carryovers.
This is here, yeah.
Yeah, so this is amazing. before that, the sprint was just a backlog that moved from sprint to sprint. That's why we have 24% of accuracy. There wasn't any planning to that sprint. Now it's not perfect, but 67 is pretty good.
It is good. It's like going from like where you are, like to, I would say, good to very good. Now, yeah, you can always go to excellent, but it is an amazing improvement. What I also really like about it, like you can see that the team grew, right, from 6 to 9, but they learned that they need, like, we're far away, committing like to 90 story points more or less. This is where we can feel comfortable. And having this culture in the organization to kind of understand that it's not about like increasing the commitment, it's about like finding this balance point where you're not under committing. Well, I've never seen almost teams that are under committing. It's always, the business always pushes you to do more and more and more. I always see the teams over committing and stretching and doing more. So this maturity level is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're going to go out of time any second now. So maybe, first of all, it's been amazing to see this type of improvements. I'm going to stop the sharing. But maybe, I don't know, Iris, if you can give one more advice, like to people who are going through this, I would say, transformation, how to become a mature organization that tries to improve in all those metrics. What's your best advice that you can give?
Use the data. The data doesn't lie. Really. Everything affects everything. As you said, that the cycle time, so it is affected by the size of the stories. So everything is connected. Look at it. It's probably not a glitch. Something happened.
When you see a problem in the data, it's no, there's a glitch in the data. But usually you're saying, like, after you get like you build like trust relationship with the data, you're saying when something is wrong, something's wrong.
The data isn't wrong.
Yeah.
It
Great.
just puts everything in your face.
Yeah. Great. Do we have some questions for Arisoni?
Yeah. Yeah, so apparently, Ori, you had another talk starting. So we were kind of thinking that maybe you should head that way and we could ask questions from Iris.
Yes. Sorry, say again?
I heard that you have another talk starting.
Yeah, I have another talk starting.
Yeah, so maybe we should just ask the questions.
It starts now. I have 5 more minutes, no?
Right.
Yes, they just wanted you early there to make sure that you get everything set up. But this was a really good conversation. This was like a lot of insights that I'm pretty sure a lot of people are, it's resonating.
Sure.
So thank you for that. We did have some questions.
Absolutely.
There is first of all, from Matteo, I see also a jump up in capacity between the sprints. How did that affect your results?
So sorry, I'm going to go, so I won't miss the other session.
All right, thank you very much, Ori.
Thank you, Oren. Thanks so much.
So yeah, we had an increase in capacity, but we did have more velocity done in the sprints. But with the refining of the planning, so we managed to get to the 67% of that specific Scrum. So, of course, when a new team member comes, the velocity can go down because of training, but eventually it adds up. But yeah, that's mainly how it affected the results.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
both of the things.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and in general with the data, once you get the process, in place that people are reporting in a correct way, the data value comes better. And that way also, when you do have it in a way that you can see as a team how it's getting better, it also, I feel like it encourages people anyway to, follow the process. So that's cool.
And
I did have one
actually have a
question.
question
Yep, go.
related to that precisely.
Okay. Yes, go for it.
Which is basically that the metrics you get out is are as good as the data that goes in. So how do you combat this kind of garbage in, garbage out type of thing, where your lead times and cycle times might be whatever, because people might be just, immediately transferring or transitioning a Jira issue from open to done. Or the estimates might be completely wrong, or the time spent on the task might not be marked at all. How do you deal with that?
So first of all, with issues that don't have any estimations on, so that was easy. That was really easy, because at the end of the sprint, you go to the team and show them, okay, you worked for 2 weeks now, and you managed to do 4 points. Are you okay with that? Because it shows that you didn't do anything practically in the past sprint. So that was easy. I can say that each team that saw that never happened again. They're very strict on putting the points before the sprint starts. In the planning, they don't forget it. Regarding if, let's say I had a story of 8 points that eventually was supposed to be 40 points, it happened. That was a really misestimation of a story. Then, of course, there's a retrospective after that. Depends on the story itself, but nowadays what we do is if we see at the end of the sprints that something was misestimated that drastically, we stop there, do a very small retro on the issue, and divide the main story into smaller stories with all the work needed to be done. This is mainly because of the spike before the beginning was either not done because they thought that it was an easy story, or if it was done, it wasn't done properly or didn't calculate all the risks inside it. But now we have all the knowledge to know to stop and to rethink everything from the start.
Right, that makes sense.
Cool.
I believe we have time for one more question. Mauno, you have something?
Okay, cool. Yes, we have 1 minute. Actually, no, I'm thinking from the other end, because it's sometimes for different companies, it's difficult to get the buy-in from the business side for things that are kind of in the development. I'm sure we all know that. But how did you see some sort of tangible results that you can also show, because you made the predictability better? How did it reflect in the business end and your customer end?
We have at the moment the field, the BigID field, the services have more confidence in the R&D organization, and also the customers. Well, the critical customers always were before everyone else, so they didn't feel or had any impact by wrong estimations, because so it's mainly the field and soft commitments that we had that customers are starting to get them on time at the moment. So it's nice, and it's nice for the team to know that if they committed, they managed to deliver on time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the psychological safety for the developers for sure at that point. So
yeah,
that's great. Cool.
All
right. Thank you, Iris. This was very interesting, very insightful. I love the topic. This is something that a lot of companies are stuck with. So it's good to hear these stories, the success stories.
All right. Thank you very much, Iris.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.